I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 12th, brought to you in part by Bromage Commodities. If you guys need some help with your hedging, or if you just want to speculate in some commodities, but a lot of us don't know near as much as we'd like to about your futures markets in your ag commodities, Candy Sullivan there with Bromage Commodities. She's out of Lexington, Kentucky. She can help you guys out. If this crisis deal hasn't made you aware that you definitely need to manage your risk, prevent your downside, and maybe still hold on to some of your upside potential there, get a hold of them at Bromage Commodities there, and they can help you out. Remember, if you take a position there, there's a chance you could lose some money there, and it is a risk, especially if you're not hedging, if you're just speculating. But I think most of us all know that. But in spite of the futures, moods are a lot better this week. And I think all of us could kind of agree with that. Everybody's kind of looking, trying to find the upside here. We've got our eyes back open and starting to raise our head up a little bit. Your cash feeder cattle sales on Monday, including Oklahoma National Stockyards and Joppa, and all your big high volume sales were a lot higher. But your feeder cattle futures were sharply lower. Fat cattle futures were quite a bit lower too, especially on your out fronts there. Not all the way out, but looking on towards the latter part of the summer and into the fall. But despite your lower futures, everybody's just thinking maybe just a little bit better. Our slaughter is already starting off quite a bit better than it was last week, and last week was better than the week before. So maybe we're going to start getting those kind of back to normal, and like I say, our demand is much better for feeder cattle and calves in all classes, and we're just starting to maybe dig in and find a way out of this wreck that we've been in. But probably never heard more than the last couple of months about the importance of your local processors. I'm talking about your locker plants and some of your larger processing plants, not your big boys, but the guys that can handle maybe up to 100 head a day, but there's not that many of them. We need a lot more of them. We've been talking about loosening up the regulation on some of theirs. Some of those plants that just have state inspection where they can still retail some individual cuts and things like that. Most of the time it's just custom kill, and then those people take that product back home and consume it themselves. But hearing some really neat stories about a plant that's opened up in Fort Pierce, South Dakota, going to be harvesting locally raised beef. And some of these local plants that are there, the ones that have USDA inspection and can sell individual cuts and the like that, they can put that country of origin labeling on. There's no law against country of origin labeling. Folks are just wanting it to be mandatory, and your big packers don't want to do it because they can bring in some cheaper product from overseas and mix it with their local and try to add value to it there. But your local processors can put what they want on there. They can tell you where that stuff's from. A lot of people that sell locally raised and homegrown beef, like my friend Jim Felton up there, his wife Susie's got a deal where she's selling Felton Ranch beef there, and you guys can find that online. Although they're just like everybody else, having a hard time getting stuff scheduled in because we realized how important all that is. I was hearing a story about another feeder flash gang member down in the southeast that raises cattle and feeds cattle. He runs a little locker plant there, and they've been running that thing wide open since he started. Had some cattle on feed out west there in Kansas, and going to take a beating on them, and thought, you know what? I think I'll just catch a backhaul on them, put a light load on a backhaul, and bring some of those commodity cattle back to my local locker plant there that he was running anyway, and put them through there and killing the coon on them. I tell you what, seeing how much money he can make on those, and it's pretty advantageous compared to just puking them up to your big major packers. And we just wish we had more of those small locker plants and local processing. And after this deal is all over, you guys need to remember to support those guys and keep them in business, and don't make it just deer season or a deal like this whenever they're important. But looking at what else has gone on, we saw early this week that China is really pushing back. Everybody knows that they're at fault on this coronavirus deal, and they could have done more to stop it, and we're not sure exactly where it originated from, whether it come from those wet markets where they're killing dogs and bats and anything else, and people are eating them right there, or if it was made in some kind of a laboratory and then got either released by accident, or who knows, maybe even on purpose, if you guys are a conspiracy theorist there. But they're really pushing back on that, and the latest we've seen is that China has put trade barriers on Australian beef, and apparently it's from the COVID investigations that Australia is involved in, and we got enough troubles here fighting for our own business, but kind of see what China's all about. We're still pushing hard on this 30-14 deal, minimum 30% mandated negotiated cash sales volume per week per plant to be delivered within 14 days. We're going to see some news out of that likely this week, and they may start negotiating a little bit higher on the minimum negotiated cash trade. We'd like to get that, but no less than 30. But you guys keep your ear to the ground. There's going to be some news coming out about that, we feel like, this week. And I tell you what, it's got some horsepower. I've had a jillion calls on it, done a jillion different interviews, webinars, the like, trying to spread the word on that deal. And I think it's something that could definitely save the industry. I pulled out a few more of the outfits that have signed on to the sign-on letter for the 3014. If you guys haven't done that yet, you need to go to uscattlemen's.org and find that sign-on letter there on that website, and you can sign on and submit that and include your ranch, your business, your feedlot, your sale barn, whatever it is. But I want to give you just another sampling of some of the outfits that have put on here in the last couple of weeks. The Good Ranch out of South Dakota has signed on. IBAND out of North Dakota, which stands for Independent Beef Association of North Dakota. IBAND, I've been up and talked to them at one of their events, and a lot of good people involved in IBAND. Dahlman Trucking out of Nebraska. I tell you what, it's affecting the truckers too, guys. Blake Prather, an old friend of mine, his dad and I used to be and his dad and my dad were partners in the auction business back, many years ago, but kind of grew up with Blake Prather. He's out in New Mexico and active in the beef business. Apple Valley Farm from Mississippi. The Perkins Farms out of Georgia, and we're glad to have them on. Farm Women United out of Pennsylvania. That's a good group to have on there, and we're glad to have those women join with us. Brook Hill Angus out of Kentucky. United Country Ranch and Recreation out of Texas. Glad to have that group on there. Here's one I'm glad to have aboard. Montana State University's Northern Collegiate Stock Growers out of Montana there. Glad to have that group of young cattle people involved. And then a buddy of mine out of Gainesville, Texas, Lone Star Angus, Rodney Howe, right there, and he's got a nice purebred herd there, and we help him out with his sales. But glad to have all those folks signed on, working about 5,000 of these signatures on, not just from individuals, but from operations that are being affected by this lack of negotiated fat cattle trade, and will down the line if we end up losing this industry and we don't get a handle on it. But let's look at the board for Monday. June live cattle futures down $1.97 at 92.67, and you think, man, why did we lose that? We gained so much ground last week. And I asked around everybody that knows, and we hate to hear about deals like this, but most people that are in the know feel like that some of your big outfits ran the prices up on your futures last week just so they could take a hold of a hedge, and then knew that it would probably start falling after that. But we hate to see that a group of businesses, corporations could all get together and push the board. But fact is, the open interest is so shallow right now, it doesn't take a whole lot to get that thing moving in one direction or the other. Your August live cattle futures down to $3 limit, 97.20. You go on out from there, it's down 97 to $3 on the next out from the August. But May feeder cattle down sharply, down 4 1/4 at 123.65. We didn't see any of them close at limit losses, but close to it. August down 427 at 132.67. Go on out front from there, down 245 to $4.10. And like I said, despite those big losses on your feeder cattle futures board, your cash feeders sold really well in your auction markets where we have competition. Weighted average on last week's fed cattle trade, 55,100 head. That's not near enough. That's about half what we need. But that compares to 47,800 in your 5-area feeding region last week, and your 55,001 this past week was a little less than half of the same week a year ago of 112,300 head. But 95 to 115 was the range on your live sales, and it was hard to even say mostly in there, because I felt like your weighted average was going to come in close to $1.10 or maybe better, because we had those well advertised 115s there late in the week, but they're not buying enough of them at those top prices to get your weighted averages up. Your weighted average on your live steers last week was only 104.50. It was up pretty good, but not as much as we thought, up $5.97. Same deal with your dressed weighted averages. Your range on your dressed steers and heifers ran from 145 to 183, and we thought that it would be 160 something. Well, your weighted average dressed steer 159.85, up $5.49. Nationwide, they sold 69,100 head, negotiated all across the country. That's not near enough, but all those cattle were for current delivery between now and 14 days, so none of them for the 2 to 4 week delivery there. So I guess everything's hand to mouth right now. Box beef cutout values, they're still increasing every day, but not the monster moves that we were seeing the last 2 or 3 weeks. But the packers, despite the investigations, despite the big calls on social media, despite being caught with their pants down or their hand in the cookie jar, they continue to raise the price levels on all these cuts that make up your box beef cutout values, and continuing to gouge people during this crisis situation. And I hope the hell they get penalized big time for it, or at least get shown for what they've been doing. But normally the government doesn't look too good on big outfits gouging consumers during a crisis situation. But box beef cutout values on Monday afternoon, $468.58, up another $7.70. Selects $452.97, up $3.98 on a good movement of 134 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings for just 1 day movement there. Your slaughter I mentioned earlier is quite a bit better. 86,000 for Monday estimated. That's 11,000 more than the 75,000 we had a week ago Monday, but not nearly as much as the 119,000 we had the same Monday a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction ended on Monday at 124.54, up 34 cents, and we thought maybe it'd be up a little bit more than that, but that's a 7-day moving average. But man, your big high volume sales sold really well. Oklahoma National Stockyards had 11,200 head. Feeder cattle there, steers and heifers, $3 to $8 lower. That's encouraging. Steer calves, $5 to $10 higher. And I think I said feeders were $3 to $8 higher. They were sure higher. Steer calves, $5 to $10 higher. And we haven't seen the big gains on our stocker type cattle, but maybe some confidence is coming back in them. Even the heifer calves, which are always the first to get knocked, were $1 to $5 higher. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 4,400 head there, kind of a lighter run for them, but $2 to $8 higher there at Joplin Regional Stockyards. Look at some individual quotes there. How about one out of Oklahoma National Stockyards? National Commission Company there, National Livestock, sold 54 head of big steers, weighed 1031 at $99. Joplin Regional Stockyard sold 59 head, 761 pound steers at $132, which is pretty darn good. The little market with the big prices, Sylvan Sales Commission out of Sylvan Grove, Kansas, sold 55 head of 859 pound steers at $129. But the biggest quote that I saw anywhere was up in the Northern Plains at Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, who we've just recently added to our online broadcasting, and you can view and bid that sale every time they have one, including their fat cattle auction or the feeder cattle auction. They even sell sheep there one day a week. 57 head, 859 pound steers, $133.75. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.